Hello people, hello, welcome to a new stream where we're gonna build a real-time chat application, and today we're gonna integrate our real-time chat application with a backend, which will be an AWS Amplify backend with a GraphQL API and authentication services and all the good stuff. Um hello Alexandra from Moldova. Hi everyone. Yeah, please let me know where we're coming from today. Where are you joining from? I'm really curious. So we started this build previous week, and we have built a clone of WhatsApp with all the UI elements that WhatsApp has, like the messages, the flat list, and so on. I'm gonna get into more details really soon. I'm gonna show like what we managed to build previous week, what is the plan for today, and so on. So guys, thank you very much for joining. If you're interested in this kind of content, please consider subscribing to my channel, as it helps me a lot to get started on this platform. Yeah, thank you very much for all the support that you guys are showing lately. Also, join the Discord server that we have created. Link in the description, where everyone is sharing their own builds. We are helping each other, and the most interesting thing and the thing that I like the most is that people are trying to go an extra mile, and they are improving the builds that I'm building here in live stream, because yeah, I'm limited by time, and I'm trying to clone only like the essential and the main part of an application, and people like out of curiosity start implementing like extra features, and they're sharing in the Discord, and yeah, that's really awesome. And I really think that this is a very good way to learn. It's following along until you grasp all the concepts, not just watching this live stream, but actually opening your code editor and starting building it yourself. If you don't manage to do it while live stream, this video will be published on my channel like in a couple of hours after this live stream. So follow along at your own pace, build it, and when you finish the build, try to implement something extra, some functionalities that I didn't implement, and that's when you actually learn, and that's when you understand if you actually grasp the concept or you just follow along. So yeah, I'm really glad to see all your builds. Let's check the chat. Hello Priyank, hello Master Jim, hello Sauvik. I'm so bad with names, sorry guys. Should I learn React or React Native? It depends like what you want to build. Like if you want to build web application, definitely go with React. If you want to build mobile application, React Native. Yeah, that's what it is. So first of all, let's have a look at what we managed to build previous week, and I will open the project. You can find the link to this project if you didn't follow the first episode in the description. It's a link to a GitHub page, so you can clone it, and you'll have the project as I have it right now. And I will write yarn start. It will open the development server, and from here run it on either iOS emulator or on an Android device or emulator, depending on like your system and preferences. It will work on both of them, so I will run on iOS emulator. Yeah, Adit, for questions like this, I would kindly ask you to ask them in our Discord server, because it doesn't relate to the build that we are actually doing today. So it's gonna be a bit distracting for the people that will be watching this live stream afterwards. So I'll be glad to help you with your questions. But yeah, let's follow up on Discord on them. So attempting to open a simulator. Come on, come on. Let's go. What's happening there? Yeah, it asked me a question here. Expo client on IFN is outdated. Would you like to upgrade it? Okay, let's upgrade. I think like live stream is the perfect time to upgrade the tools. Hopefully everything will be okay there. So, yeah, it's building with JavaScript, and shortly we'll have our application running on the Expo on the device. Hello, Martin. Martin is saying, glad to have you working on the WhatsApp part 2. I look forward to seeing your implement push notifications. Yeah, push notification might come later today, where we have something else planned. So we have our application opened. So we see first of all the home screen, which displays a list of chats that we have, people that we are chatting with. We have like the top top navigator, top tab navigator, and we can actually change pages. We can also like scroll and change the pages. At the moment we have implemented only the chats tab. Also, when we press on a chat, for example here, we go to the chat room, and here we see all the messages, and we also can type the message and send it. Right now nothing is gonna happen because we didn't integrate with backend yet, but everything is ready to do so. One more thing, here we have a floating button with creating a new message, and when we open it here, we are redirected to a list of contacts. And here I'm planning to display just all the contacts that will register in our application. So that's what we have managed to build during the previous live stream. If you haven't been there, yeah, here it is. So what is the plan for today? Today we're gonna integrate this application with a backend. As I said, the first step will be to set up the AWS Amplify project. The next one is to add authentication, so only authenticated users will be able to see the contacts, to start chatting, and so on. And also we'll set up everything again with AWS Amplify. Then the GraphQL API, which we're gonna set up and integrate everything from our app to work not with dummy data that we have right now, but with data from the API. And yeah, in the API there will be like more information because we have to do a lot there. So are you guys ready? Yeah, I almost forgot. We reached 1,000 subscribers. That's so nice, guys. Thank you very much for everyone. Small win, but a big start, and I'm really pumped on like what the future will bring us. Okay, guys, let's get started. So here we have the link to my keyboard is flashing. That means that it might get disconnected soon. I don't want that. So yeah, docs.amplify.aws, and then there is like the starting guide, and we choose React Native from the list. So AWS Amplify, like what is and why I'm using it. AWS Amplify is a set of tools that combines a lot of services from AWS, and it makes it really easy to develop a backend for mobile applications and web. It is composed of multiple tools from AWS. For example, it uses AWS Cognito for managing users, authenticating users, authorization also, and all this stuff. It uses AWS AppSync for the GraphQL API, or also REST API if you want to develop a REST API. AWS has free. This is the storage service from AWS, where we can store all the images, songs, or any media file that we have. Notification, then analytics, and a lot more services that that you might need to just get started. And the cool thing about it that I like is how disconnects my keyboard and microphone. Can you confirm now that you can hear me well and we can continue working? Okay, great. So getting started. Let's in order to get started with Amplify, we need to have on our system notjust installed, npm and git. Then we already have a React Native application because we have it developed from the previous episode. After that, we need to sign up for an AWS account. And signing up for an AWS account is free. However, they ask you for your credit card details. However, most of the services on AWS have a free tier, so it's more than enough to test, and you're not gonna get charged for like testing data and messing around with services. However, I encourage, after you finish like playing around, you delete it, just to make sure that you're clean there. But yeah, I'm not charged for any of the services that I have built using these cloning episodes, like Instagram, Twitter, everything is on AWS, and I'm not charged. So after that, we need to install and configure the Amplify locally. I'm not gonna do that right now because I already have Amplify installed, but it's very easy to follow this guide. There is also a video, you can do that. Amplify configure, which will configure the Amplify locally with your AWS account. It will ask you to create a user and set up the secret keys, and that's it. The next step is setting up the Amplify project. So here we are starting to do it together. The only thing that we need to do is run Amplify init in our project. So let's go here. Let me also, okay, terminal, and run Amplify init. Amplify init will ask us a couple of questions, and yeah, most of the services from Amplify like follow the same approach. Like they just ask you a couple of questions, and that's it. Yeah, choose your editor. I don't have WebStorm there. For the type, we're gonna build a JavaScript application, and the framework is React Native. For the source directory, leave as it is, build command the same, start command the same, and now we just have to wait until Amplify initializes our project. No, actually there is one more question to choose our profile, and this profile is the profile that you set up during the previous step from the tutorial. Yeah, from here you set a profile name or leave to default. So based on the profile name, you will select it here. So I'm gonna use the IG clone test profile name that I have it already set up. Just out of curiosity, why not use Firebase when isn't Firebase better than AWS? Yeah, maybe I'm very biased towards AWS because I'm using AWS every day at my startup. I'm also AWS certified, and I really love all the services that they are creating, they are providing. I also had an internship at Amazon, so yeah, that's. But also, like from objective reasons, AWS has a much bigger market share of cloud providers, and it's a lot bigger than Google. I think AWS is 38% and Google is around 10 or something like that. So yeah, that's why I'm using AWS. Please step by step for new developers on AWS Amplify. Yeah, from now on I'm gonna do like everything like step by step and everything that you need to do. The only thing that I'm not following is the setting up your AWS account and installing Amplify locally. That should be very straightforward. Like you have to run a couple of commands. Here you see like everything you need to do, and that's it. So the other part, yeah, I'm following along. I'm not copy pasting some code and pasting it and saying that you need to do the same. So okay, let's have a look. Here we did the Amplify init. After that, we need to install a couple of libraries that Amplify needs. So I'm gonna copy them and make sure that you select here Expo or React Native CLI, depending on how did you set up a project. In our case, it's an Expo project. So I'm gonna do yarn add and paste in all the dependencies that I copied from the website. If we have a website in React and combine the app through REST API, then AWS Amplify will work. Yeah, AWS Amplify works with React for web application as well, and you can also create a REST API, not only a GraphQL API, in Amplify. Yeah, that's perfect. Well, it's a solution. Okay, it installed the libraries. And the last thing is we have to copy these 3 lines to configure the Amplify in our app.js. In our case, it's app.tsx. In the root folder, you find app.tsx. And after all the imports, we add Amplify configure. We save it, and probably we will have to rerun the code because we installed some dependencies. Not sure if they are updating right away, so just to make sure. Yeah, let's close it, and let's just make sure that Amplify was set up correctly and we don't have any run on iOS. We don't have any bugs. Sorry, I'm blanking from time to time. Okay, 80%, a little bit more. Come on, come on, come on. You can do it. I really like the fast refresh of React Native. And yeah, after the first build that usually takes like around 1 minute, everything is very smooth and it refreshes like instantly. It's also when you need it. Yeah, that's the Murphy law. So yeah, we see that our application still works as expected. And other than that, we cannot test anything because we just initialize the Amplify. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a checkpoint in Git, commit everything, commit, yeah, Amplify init. Yeah, these are the 3 steps that we took. Okay, the next one. Will AWS notify that you are about to reach your tier limit? Yeah. AWS sends you automatic notifications when you are at around 80% of your free tier. So in any case, you'll receive some notification. Okay, so authentication. If you'll need more instructions about authentication, you can find here the guide. But we're gonna follow because we did it a couple of times already here. So amplify, add authentication, and yeah, that's it. And yeah, it will ask us a couple of questions. Default configuration or default configuration with social providers. Someone was asking me on Discord if Amplify Authentication supports signing with Facebook or with Google and so on. So yeah, they support, and you would choose this default configuration with social providers, and you'll have to just create this application on Facebook to get the key, and on Google and so on. I'm gonna go with default configuration for this project. And how do you want users to be able to sign in? Username, email. Let's go with a username. I know that actually WhatsApp links a user account to a phone number, but we're gonna do it a bit simpler and not require phone numbers from users. So, do you want to configure advanced settings? No, I'm done. Everything as simple as that. Okay, the next step is to run Amplify push, and what this will do, it will take all the services, actually only the auth service that we added right now when set up, and it will create the necessary service in the cloud. So it will push our application to the cloud. Let's run that because that will take around 2-3 minutes to set up all the services, yeah, on AWS. It will ask us regarding the authentication category. Yes. And yeah, this may take a few minutes. Okay, while it creates the services on AWS, yeah, we can have a look here what other steps we need to take. Amplify push, it will create it, and the next step will be to actually include the UI that Amplify is providing us, because yeah, usually you spend a lot of time creating the design and UI of all the authenticating screens. For example, sign up, log in, then forget password, then to insert the code that you receive on Gmail, on email, and yeah, you have around like 4 screens and so on. And when you're developing some prototype application or proof of concept, you don't want to spend a lot of time on in this part, and you want to actually spend time on building the actual business side of the application that will make sense. And in that situation, Amplify comes with very easy to use UI elements, and just with 2 lines of code, like importing the with authenticator and wrapping our application inside this higher order component, inside this function, we get all the UI elements and all the screens for all the steps that I described before, like login, sign up, forget password, and so on. And yeah, that's really nice, because just with 2 lines of code we have authentication set up, and we save a lot of time. At the same time, let's copy this one, and let's delete export default from here, because we're gonna export it down below here, and we paste in export default with authenticator and our application, and all resources are updated to the cloud. Now our application will refresh. Let's make sure. First of all, let's run Amplify console, and this will open AWS console to show us our application in the cloud. So yeah, here we see our application, WhatsApp clone. It has like authentication added. We're gonna add more categories a bit later. Yeah, everything that you need here. You can view your identities incognito, your users, and so on. Play around with the console and see what you can understand from there. Okay, now let's try to rerun the application here. Please, active hardware keyboard. Text input is covered by keyboard. What do you mean? Text input. Okay, so guys, with those 2 lines of code that we created, like with authenticator, we have our app protected by authorization. So here we have like the sign in to your account screen. However, we don't have an account yet, so let's sign up. For the username, let's say Vadim. Password, very easy password. Try to hack me. I know that you could see it. Okay, and here some random email. Sign up. And what this did, we should now receive a code on our email. So I'm gonna check if I received it already, but it's usually like instant. Yeah, I received it. My mouse. Oh, my mouse wants charging. Really? Now? Hope that my PC will manage to stay on the battery a bit until I charge my mouse. Hello? Don't tell me that I'll have to use the trackpad. So this is the confirmation code. And now we can log in. Let's hope, yeah, we logged in. And the next time that we will launch the application, we're not gonna see those screens because we are already logged in. Why you're not working? Yeah, that was really simple. Someone is saying that, yeah, that's what it takes to set up very basic but everything that you need authentication flow. Also, the good thing is that um, it doesn't limit you in any way. So if you want to design it in your own way, and if you have like custom designs, you can do that. And it's also very easy because yeah, AWS Amplify has methods that you just call for, like sign in, sign up, and so on, and you just send the credentials, and they handle everything else. So you can also do it on your own with your own designs. Yeah, I think that I'm not gonna use the mouse this video. It said that no, it doesn't want. And yeah, let me charge my PC instead. Someone asked why this promise rejection warning always pops up. This is actually an issue with analytics, but we didn't set up analytics, so on. So it's a problem with Amplify, but it's not a huge problem. So yeah, if we go here, we see that there is like an unhandled promise rejections. If we will set up the analytics service, then this error will go away. Okay, so does that mean that authentication is done? I guess so. Also, for authentication, someone was asking me like how to see that flow again after we seen it. Basically, we can implement a very easy sign out button that we will call the sign out method imported from AWS Amplify. So that's also very easy. You just implement a button, sign out, you import the sign out function from authentication service, and you call it, and that's it. You are signed out from your account. Okay, so what's next? Let's commit everything to Git. Yeah, that was a pretty small commit, and authentication is done. So the next one, the most interesting one, is the GraphQL API. How are you doing, guys? Are you following everything all right? So GraphQL API. The same way as we added the authentication service, we call Amplify add API. Amplify will ask us a couple of questions. We want a GraphQL API. Provide the API name, we leave it as default. And choose the default authorization type for the API. So there are a couple of ways to authorize user to use the API. One of them is the API key, and this will be like a generated API key, but this is only for development purposes. So don't push to production with an API key, because like once someone has this key that is generated, they will be able to access your API. So that's why when we choose API key, it asks us like for how long this key should be available, and we usually set up 7 days. And for some people, this key got expired and they had to regenerate a new key. So today I'm gonna try Amazon Cognito user pool, and this is a way to we will be able to access the API only if we are registered like with Cognito, with Amazon Cognito, and the Amplify auth service is using this Cognito, and this is that will mean that only the authenticated users will be able to access our API. So let's choose this one. Do you want to configure advanced settings for GraphQL API? No, I'm done. Do you have an annotated GraphQL schema? No, we don't have any schema yet, but we're gonna define shortly one, and choose a schema template. Let's start with a single object field, and then we will add more objects and increase our schema. Do you want to edit the schema now? Yeah, I want, but I think if I say yes, it will fail to open the file, so I know where the file is. Now we go to the backend, where Amplify, backend, API, and here we can find the schema. And this schema is our schema for the GraphQL API. You're welcome, Game Buzz. Thank you for joining. Oh, someone is saying that they have a bug. Okay, maybe I'll get to that real quickly. And if I open here, and if it opens the simulated keyboard, I don't know how to open it. Probably somewhere here. Keyboard, toggle software keyboard. Okay, yeah, I understand the issue now. Okay, we'll get back to that real quickly. I hope to be able to to easily fix that. Okay, thank you for the information. So regarding the our schema, 1 second. So the schema is a way to tell our Amplify how will our models and will look like, and based on this, Amplify will create all the specific resources. So basically, for each model that we have, Amplify will create an AWS table in, how is it called, the database? DynamoDB. Yeah, forgot the name. It will create a DynamoDB table for each model type, and it will save this information in the DynamoDB table. The DynamoDB is a database service that scales very well, like to millions and billions of items, and it has like really a very good performance. It has some drawbacks as well, because it's a key value database, and we can query based on the key. It's not like a relationship database, but yeah, for some purposes it's like it's the best database in my opinion. So let's define how will our user look. First of all, let's rename from to do to user, and our user will have an ID. Every model should have an ID. It will have a name. It will also have like an image URI, but let me check how did we call this image URI in our dummy data, because I don't want to change the code. Users, yeah, image URI. So the image URI will be a string. What else? But it's not gonna be required. So the exclamation mark at the end means that this field is required. So let's set image URI as optional, because maybe not every user will be able to have like an image. And also there is like this status, which is again a string. Yeah, as well, let's leave it as optional. So I think that this is the minimum that we need for a user for our application to work. I don't see any other things. If we look here, we have ID, name, image, and status. Yeah. So we defined our schema. I don't want to put all the schema that we need like right away, because it is gonna be confusing, because our schema for today will be quite big, and I want to develop it like step by step to be more clear. So user, that's enough for now. Let's run Amplify push and create this service on AWS. Let's go. Time, date, time. A user, actually, someone is saying to add time, date, time to user. However, Amplify will automatically add 2 more fields to this schema, which are created at and updated at. And they add these fields to every model, unless we specify that we don't want these fields there. So we don't need to add any time here, because it's gonna be added automatically. Yeah, while I speak, Amplify asked me to confirm. Do you want to generate code for newly created GraphQL API? Yes, and this code will, I will show you in a second what it will generate. So we choose TypeScript or JavaScript from here, and let's go with enter. Do we want to generate, update all possible GraphQL operation, which are queries, mutation, and subscriptions? Yes, let's go with everything. And the maximum statement depth, let's leave it to 2 right now. Enter the file name. Yeah, that's gonna be good. Hi Floody boy, how are you doing? So we are waiting a couple of seconds until yeah, all the services will be created in the cloud. Don't forget to drink water, guys. Stay hydrated. Come on, come on. So let's chat with someone. Who do we have here? Let's chat with Elon Musk. Come on. So guys, ask something, because I'm getting bored until this is creating. Who managed to do the first part of WhatsApp clone? Is anyone from here that finished the first part and is intending to do the second one? Pro email, I did half. Yeah, that's good. Did you get stuck on something? Alexander is asking, Notjust is your sponsor or your company? Notjust is the brand behind everything, and it started as my company where we were doing a software development service company, and now it's shifting more into education and content creation. Thanks for the question. Why it's taking so much time? Okay, then good luck with finishing the application. If you have any problems, just write in our Discord group, and I'll be glad to help you. So, okay, all the resources are created that we need. So let's have a look at them. Let's run Amplify console, and here we can even say like API, and it will open specifically the console of the API, like GraphQL, and it open on a different screen, but I will bring it here. So here is our GraphQL. Let's have a look. So we have our schema, and this is like what GraphQL generated out of the information that we provided. And if you remember, we provided only 6 lines of code saying that, okay, we will have a type user. And Amplify went and generated all Google and generated 160 lines of code for everything that we will need. For example, all the CRUD operation, we have them here. Type mutation, it has like a create user, update user, delete user operations. For queries, it has get user, list user for the list of all the users in our application. Also subscriptions, all the inputs, everything. Like just for you to understand how much Amplify is helping us, I'm building also a GraphQL API for my startup, but I'm not using Amplify there. So all this 160 line of code, I'm writing it myself. With Amplify, we are writing 6 lines of code, and we get everything set up and ready to use. So also here in queries, we can run queries in right here. So we see our get user. No, let's run the list users to see all the users from our application. We will expand the items, and from here we will choose what fields do we want to receive from the server. Let's go with ID, name, and for example image. Let's run it. It says that unable to parse GBT token. We are unauthorized. So that's what I was saying. Only authorized users will be able to run queries. So let's log in with user pool. I don't know like these IDs where they are coming from, but we'll select the second one. Just select both of them and see which one works. So for the username, I'm gonna use the same username that I registered in the application, Vadim, and the password again the same. Login. Yeah, it's logged in as Vadim. So let's run the query, which I don't know where it disappeared. Yeah, here is the query. Let's run it, and we see that list users, there is no users in our database. So what does that mean? Basically, Amplify does not connect a user in the Cognito pool. The Cognito is for authenticating. So right now we have a user in Cognito pool, but we need a way to connect this Cognito user to an user from our database, from Amplify. AppSync, sorry, because they don't do it by default, and we will have to do this linking manually on our side. So what does that mean? That means that every time we will register in our application, or we will open the application, we will take the ID of the user that is signed in from Cognito, from Auth service. We will do a query using that ID to our database, to our backend, and we'll see if there is no user with that ID, we'll register a user. And that will happen only once, because the second time we open the application, there will be already a user in the database. So let's do that, and where we will do that, we'll do that in the top level component, which is our application. So in our application here, let's define a use effect, because we want to run this code only the first when the application loads. So run this snippet only when app is first mounted. Okay, so here we will need to declare a sync function. Something like fetch user or manage user, and this will be an async function, and we need to call it just after declaring it. This is a little trick, because it looks weird because we are declaring this function and calling it right away, and you might ask, like, why not declaring it async here and do all the logic inside here? We cannot do that with use effect. That's a limitation of use effect, because use effect should receive a non-async function. So that's why we have to declare a separate function which is async, and just call it here in our use effect. So the first thing, okay, get authenticated user from auth. The next step will be get the user from backend with the user ID from authentication that we will receive here. And if there is no user in our database with the ID, then create one. So this will be our flow that we are gonna do. Someone is asking, what is dependencies empty array? Here we are inserting the dependencies, like when should this use effect be called, and here we would place the variables that this use effect depends on, basically meaning that whenever a variable from here changes, our use effect will run. So in this case, we don't have any dependencies, and we want this snippet to run only the first time it mounts. That's why we send empty array. That's how we make sure that it runs only the first time, because if we don't send anything, it's gonna run every time our component updates. So we don't want that. We want only the first time. Okay, so let's start implementing the first step. So user info equal to await auth that we're gonna import shortly. and let's import it right now. We need some, okay, it doesn't want to import this way. We will import ourselves here authentication from not const import from AWS Amplify. Where, yeah, import auth from AWS Amplify, and here this auth will give us the current authenticated user. We can also say bypass cache to make sure that we are not taking it from cache and we are actually taking it from the server. True. Okay, let's before doing anything, let's console log this information and make sure that we are actually receiving what we want and in what format we're receiving it. Let's save and open our open the Expo server. So here, if we scroll a bit, we see Cognito user. So this is information about the signed in user. It has everything like attributes, email, if email is verified, the phone number, also what information it has that we will need. Okay, it also has in these attributes, it has a sub. I don't remember what sub stands for, but this is a unique ID that defines this user in the Cognito user pool. So this is the ID that we're gonna use to link this user with a user in our database. So let's remember that we will need this sub. So here, if user info, because user info might be null if user is not authenticated, but we're gonna check if user info is not null, then everything will happen here. Okay, get the user from backend with the user ID that we got here. User ID, I mean here user sub. So let's import API here because we're gonna do some calls for the API. And if we look at the source GraphQL, here Amplify generated us a couple of queries and mutations that we can just take them and use. So that's also something that GraphQL Amplify helps us. In my application, I would have to write all these queries and mutation myself. Sometimes I encourage you doing the same here because, for example, if we have, I don't know, this page with a list of users, here we see that we only need name, image, and status. Then it doesn't make a lot of sense to take, like, I don't know, the created at, updated at, and other things. So you might copy this query and insert it into your file where you need it and adjust it as you need. For example, saying that we don't need created at and updated at. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm gonna use everything that Amplify generated here. Maybe later on we will need some custom fields, so I will edit them. So we see here in our queries a query get user, and it receives an ID, and based on this ID it searches in the database and returns us a user with all the information about it, if it exists. So we're gonna import this get user in our application.tsx, So let's import from src, should be here, right? No. Where are we? In screens. No. Okay. It's just .src GraphQL queries, and from the queries we need get user. We need also to import the GraphQL operation, and that's it with the imports. We can implement it. So here, const user data will be fetched from our API GraphQL, and we send the GraphQL operation with a parameter of the query that we imported, get user. And as a second parameter, we need to send the variables. Yeah, it shows here variables, and the variables is all these variables that we need to send. In this case, it's only like one ID called. So ID will be user. Okay, let's add some space. By the way, can you see well the font size? Because usually I increase it, but today I forgot. Font size. Let's try 16. Yeah, now hopefully you can see it better. So the ID, we're gonna take it from user info, and if you remember, user info has attributes and .sub, and this is the ID that we need to search on. So that's user info dot attributes dot not ID but sub. Okay, now we can console log the response that we get and see. Right now we should expect a null value because we didn't register our user in the database yet. Let's save. Let's open Expo server, scroll, not there. Yeah, object data get user null. This means that we didn't find any user with that ID in our server, in our database. And let's see if user data dot data dot get user, if this is true, that means that console log user is already registered in database. And also let's return here. If it's null, then we need to create it in our database. So the same way as we called the API with a GraphQL operation, we called it with a get user. Now we need to call it with a different operation, and creating things in GraphQL are called mutations, and this is like when you create a post, you update a post and stuff like that. Queries, when you receive information, it's similar to a get request in a REST API. Mutation are like a post request. So let's have a look at our mutations. Here we can see the first one, create user mutation. It also has an input of type create user input, we don't see it here, but if we want to check how does this input look, we can check it on AWS console. So let's import, let's duplicate this line, and from mutations we will import create user, and I think that's everything we need to import right now. So first of all, let's define the object that we want to create. So new user will be an object. The idea of a new user will be, as we discussed already, this sub field from our Cognito. That's how we link them together. What else do we have here? ID, name, image URI, and status. Okay, name, image URI, and status. Okay, for the status, I will go with a hard-coded string. I think even WhatsApp was doing that. I'm not sure right now, but it was saying like, hey, I am using WhatsApp. And after that, maybe we can implement that you'll be able to change the status. For the name, we can take the name from user info that we receive from Cognito. If we scroll a bit to see the data that we received from Cognito in our attributes, we also received, yeah, maybe not in an attribute, somewhere should be the username. Yeah, it's username, just user info.username. Yeah, and username is, yeah, our, as you guessed, our username. So the name will set with user data dot username name. And for the image URI, why does not exist? Yeah, you definitely exist. We just don't have the types of the GraphQL, so let's not worry about them right now. For the image URI, I will implement a simple function that will give a random image to everyone, because I want to keep it simple. I don't want to implement right now image upload. If we will have time, maybe we'll implement it in the next week. And if you're interested about that, yeah, let me know and I will make sure to take it into consideration. So let's have a function somewhere here, const get random image. We'll have somewhere here random images. It will be a list of images, and yeah, if you give me a second, I think Alexandra prepared something for me as URLs. Yeah, let's try. Who can help me in the chat? How do you get a random element out of an array? That would be helpful, because I don't know. What is it? Just when see others, but no, I think we are good with this amount. So we should generate a random number between 0 and the length of the random items and return it there. How do we make sure that the generated number is between 0 and length? We can have a look. JavaScript random number. Oh, someone wrote there. Okay, I will just trust my friends here that are helping. So return random images at position, and here we need a random number between 0 and 0, 1, 2, 3 inclusive, or 0 and 4 exclusive. So it's gonna be math.floor, math.random. Oh, my the autocomplete feature that I'm using, plugin, autocompleted it with map.floor, map.random, and we multiplied by random images.length. That should give a random image from here. We'll see. Hopefully it will work and not crash for anyone. Image in URI, get random image. New user. Okay, we have an object. Now we need to send it to our API. So const, or we don't need to receive anything back from the API. We're gonna just say await API .graphql. Here we send a GraphQL operation. Let's make it from new line. GraphQL operation. The operation will be create user, and for the variables we will say I think we need to say input. Yeah, the variables is input will be our new user that we created here. Is that it? Let's try. Let's save. It will refresh. Let's make sure that our server didn't complain about anything. I can't be sure about that. Possible unhandled promise rejection. That doesn't look good. Input has coerced null value for non-null type string, which is which one? ID, name, image, status. ID, name, image, status. Let's make sure that it didn't actually create them. Yeah, it didn't, because list users is still empty. Source name, message, variable input as, did I write it here correctly? Input. ID, name, image URI, and status. Let's console log yeah, the new user. Maybe there are some null values there. Yeah, I guess the username might be null. Let's see. ID is okay. Yeah, name is undefined. Name is undefined. What does that mean? Name, user, not user data, but user info. Why didn't it tell me, guys? Let's save. Now let's check. That's something else. A lot of Yeah, I think it created, and we can check it in our AWS console, and we will run this list users query. Let's run it, and we see we already have the user in our database. And if we refresh it, it will check and it will see that we already have the user with that ID saved in our database. That means that we don't need to create a new one. So if we run, we see only one. It doesn't create two or more. Can you go back on AWS? What do you mean here somewhere? So that's how you guys link a user from Cognito, from Authentication, with a user from our database. And why do we need that? We need that because everywhere in our application we will have a relationship between something with a user. For example, a message with a user, because we need to know like which user created that message. And having that user in our database together like with messages alongside is going to be much easier to query, and I'll show you later what do I mean by that. And yeah, that's probably a bit harder than we saw until now. It requires some custom calls, checks to two services. One of them is auth current authenticated user. Based on that information, we do first of all a query to our GraphQL API. If we don't receive any result, that means that there is no user there, and after that we create that user in our Amplify, in our GraphQL API. So yeah, that's a bit more complicated, but when you think about it, it's still pretty straightforward. I will delete these comments because I think it's pretty straightforward. What AWS service are you using to run GraphQL query on AWS? So we are using AWS AppSync because that's what Amplify is using behind the scenes. So to access it, we call Amplify console API, and this, my friends, opens up and here we choose GraphQL, and it opens up this page to run the queries. Okay, so we added the Amplify, we created the user, we registered the user on authentication. Now we can display all users in our contact list, which is here. But before that, guys, give me 1 minute. I need to go somewhere very important. I think you can guess. I'm gonna be back shortly. I'm back. So how are you doing, guys? First of all, let me commit everything. Implement API and user model. Also, let me show you something. So if you're thinking like, okay, where is all our data saved? That's, as I said, AWS DynamoDB. This is the database service behind our models. So if we look at the tables, here we see the tables that I was using for our project, but also we can see somewhere like users that we just created. I just don't remember. I don't know the ID of that, but yeah, it should be here somewhere. Yeah, image, name, yeah, this is the one. So yeah, this is the DynamoDB table that it is used to store our users that we just created. Let's check some chat messages. Suman, hi from India. Hello, welcome here. Okay. I feel like React Native is much similar to React. Yeah, indeed, it's very similar. The only difference is yeah, the render components that we are using, and in React in React we are using like all the div h1s span and all the web components. However, here we are using alternatives like views, text, and so on, but the logic and everything else behind is the same, React and React Native. Ooh. I spilled water. That's okay. Please put timestamps later to the stream. Yeah, I'll definitely do. That's what I thought today, that I actually need timestamps. It's gonna be much easier. And having timestamps, you guys will be able to skip this talk that I'm doing that is not related to the project. Okay. How to remove a word? How to remove a word back from here? You can. I'm not sure why would you do that, because this is the default UI behavior on iOS, having this back button, and it's present in all the application. It's possible by sending a null value to header back button, if I'm not mistaken, or in the navigation of that screen. So the same way as we send like header right component, same way we send here header back button, and the value will be null. Okay guys, so how do you feel? Everything good? Are you still here? The next step in our plan is to display all users in the contact list. So let's do that. First of all, let's close everything and open screens and contact screen here. Currently we are taking users from our dummy data that we have here, users, but we want to take these users from our backend API. So first of all, we need a use effect that will run when we mount this component. And to do that, as you remember, we send empty array here as dependencies. Let's import the use effect. And here, because we again will need a sync functionality, we will define fetch users as an async function. and here we can just call fetch users. So let's wrap it into a try catch to make sure that it will not fail or anything. We're catching all the errors that might come with the network. And here let's say const users data will be equal to await API.GraphQL. Here GraphQL operation. Let me just put them from a new line. The operation will be list users, and now we need to import everything. So let's import API and GraphQL operation from Amplify and AWS Amplify, and one more thing, import the list user query from source GraphQL queries, and from the queries we will import list users. Okay, we have list users, we call, and now we can console log and see what we received from the server. We should receive something similar to what we saw here, because here we also run the list users. And if we save, should refresh, I think it already did, and let's check the console log here. So it has data.listUsers.items, and the items is an array of users, and each users we see that it has like an ID, created at, image URI, name, status, and currently there is only one user that I have registered. So that's good, because using this data we can display it here. So where do we save this data in our component? We would need a state for that, because we receive it from the server. We need to save it somewhere in the component. So for that we are gonna use state users set users equal to use state, and initially it will be an empty array. Add import statement, and here we can call set users user data dot the name of operation list users dot items. Yeah, this is quite long. You don't need to memorize it, just console log, have a look here, like data.listUsers.items, and that's it. Like, don't try to memorize it. In the catch, let's console log the error. Now let's delete our import of the dummy data, and now it should work. Yeah, it actually works here. We already see there is one user with a name, and yeah, the status, hey, I'm using WhatsApp. Okay, right now let's manually add a couple of users through the console to be able to see them more here. So I'm gonna choose here a mutation. I'm gonna press plus sign, and here I'm gonna call the mutation add user. I'm gonna expand the create user, and here we need to provide a image URI, name, and status. Okay, For the image URI, let's copy some images from this array. Image URI, let's paste in here. Name and status, hey bear. So right now I'm creating users, but nobody will be able to sign up with them because we are not linked to any Cognito users. So they're gonna just be, we're gonna be able to see them, nobody will be able to sign up with them. So yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, we created them. Right now, if we reopen our application, should we see more? Let's just make sure that it's working, and then we can add a couple of more. Yeah, it created a new one. So let's do six. We just change the name here to 6. Add user, whatever, 9, and probably that would be it. 9. And now if we open this page, now we see 4 users. One of them is me, and the others are the ones that I created in the console. They're not linked to any authenticated user, so nobody will be able to enter there. However, we'll be able to use them as testing data. So that's it. That's how we display data from our database, from our API using queries. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, we import API and GraphQL operation. We import the query itself that we need to run. And after that, in a use effect, because we want to run this the first time that the component mounts, we declare a fetch users function, which will be an async function, and we're gonna do this operation on our API.GraphQL. Then, based on the result that we receive, we're gonna set this data in our state. So later on, based on this state variable users, we can display it in our flat list. A lot of moving parts, but yeah, once you do this more times, it starts to make sense, and it's pretty straightforward. So let's do git add, git commit display users from API, and yeah, we are done with this step. Display all users in the contact list. Okay, next one will be interesting. How are you guys doing? Everyone good? Did you drink water? Are you hydrated? My voice starts to crack. How much time are we live? 1.5 hours. It's still good, but yeah, my voice is already leaving me. Okay, perfect. Now with chat rooms. Chat rooms are all the rooms that we are gonna create in order to like we put 2 users in a chat room and they exchange messages. And this, what we see here, like chats, these are the chat rooms. And we're gonna try to implement them in a way to support groups later on easily. So It's, for example, it's not gonna just have like user 1 and user 2, but it's gonna have like an array of users. So right now we're gonna work with just chat rooms of 2 people, basically 2 people chatting, and after that we'll be able to improve it and add groups very easily, because it's gonna be ready to do that. Okay, so let's go. Let's go. Yeah, let's close everything. And for our chat rooms, we will need a new model in our API. So let's open our Amplify Backend API schema, and let's add a new model, chat room, which will be a model. And the chat room will definitely have an ID, because all models will should have an ID. And it will also have like a list of users and a list of messages in that chat room. Okay, so what is let's think about the relationship between a chat room and a user. So basically one user can be in multiple chat rooms, which means that at the moment I'm in a chat room with Lucas, I'm in a chat room with Daniel, with Alex, and so on, with everyone here. And also a chat room can have multiple users. Basically this chat room currently has 2 users, me and Lucas, because that's the users who are part of that chat room. Later on, if there will be groups, there will be even more users in a chat room. That means that the relationship between a user and a chat room is many to many. So when we have a many to many relationship, we need to add a separate model between them that will link as a one to many in both directions. What do I mean by that? That's gonna be, let's say, a chat room user will be a model. And yeah, as I said, every model has an ID. And now this chat room user should connect on one end with a user, and on the other end with a chat room. Basically meaning, yeah, like a connection between a user and a chat room. So for that we need a user ID to know with which ID it connects, and a chat room ID to know in which chat room this user is. Then we will add, yeah, this is just the IDs of the users and the chat rooms, but we also would like to receive, by querying a chat room, to receive the information about users. So to make the actual connection between a chat room user and a user. So for that, like we declare here a user, which will be a user type. And here we also need to add the connection to the user, and the fields on which this connection will happen are user ID. So based on this user ID, connect it with a user. Connect it with a user from here. Yeah. The same way we need to make a connection with a chat room, and the connection fields. The fields are chat room ID. Something like this. Okay. Now we have a relationship from a chat room to a user and to a chat room. However, a user now is not linked back to the list of chat rooms. Basically, doing a query on a user, we cannot know in which chat rooms he exists. So to do that, we will declare here chat room user field, chat room user, and this will be an array list of chat room user, because it has a one-to-many relationship with a chat room user. And also we need to declare the connection, but the connection right now should use a secondary key to be able to search in the chat room database. So before doing that, let's create the key here. So we'll create a key on the chat room user, and we need to give it a name to be able to later on use this key. So the key will be firstly by user, and which fields will this key be composed of. So the first one is the hash key, like the primary key on which we will search the items in the database. So the primary key will be on user ID, and the second one is our sort key. Basically, it's going to be easier to sort based on this key. So the sort key can be chat room ID. Okay, let's add the same key for the other connection, which is by chat room. The fields here are reversed. The hash key is our chat room ID, and the sort key is our user ID. Okay, now we have these keys. We can access the key here in our connection. So key name is by user. And what is the local field that we want to do the connection? The local fields are ID, and it will match this user ID, basically this user ID, with the user ID from here that we specify. This way, whenever we do query to the users, we will be able to receive information about the chat room users, meaning like in which chat rooms this user is part of, and this will give us an array list of a chat room user, and based on this chat room user we can query all the information about the chat room. So what else? We see here that the chat room should also have a list of users, knowing like to be able to display who are the users in this chat room. So the same way as we connected a user with a chat room user, the same way we're gonna do it here. Chat room users will be an array of chat room user, and the connection will use the key name by chat room, this one, and the local fields will be also ID. Okay, by chat room ID. If I didn't do any mistakes, Thank you very much. If I didn't do any mistakes, that should be it with a setup of chat rooms and multiple users in one chat room. So I would go and write amplify push and see if I didn't mess up any names. Yeah, Alexandra, my girlfriend, brought me some tea. Do you want to update the code? Yes, I want. How do you think, guys? Was that some more or less clear? Because it's might be a bit confusing. I agree on that one. Because this is a specific case with a many-to-many relationship. Usually the one-to-many relationship is much easier, and you can see one-to-many relationship in other projects. For example, in Instagram clone, there is a one-to-many relationship between user and posts, and so on. But here, like, we have a many-to-many, and it's a bit more tricky because we need an intermediate table. Okay, I think we need to answer one more question. Yes. Okay, we'll wait a couple of minutes until it updates. And after that we can start implementing it. So let's think about what should happen and what should we create whenever we start a chat with someone. For example, I go here on a new chat, I press on the first contact, Lucas. So what should we create in our database to be able to create a chat room and set it up everything with Lucas? The first one that we need to create is just to create a simple chat room. We don't give any inputs there because the ID will be generated automatically, and we just create a new chat room. After that, we create a chat room user for Lucas with user ID, the ID of Lucas, and chat room ID, the ID that we receive from the server, that chat room that we just created. And this will put Lucas into the chat room. We also should make sure to put ourselves in the chat room. We will create a new chat room user with user ID, but in this time our user ID, and chat room ID, the same ID that we just created in the chat room. So that's how we add two users in our chat room. But as you expect and as you might see right now, it doesn't limit us to two users, because we can create 10 and 100 chat room users with the same chat room, and that will mean that we put a lot of users into the same chat room. So that's gonna be useful if we want to implement groups and group chats. yeah, it's generating code. And yeah, now if we are looking at our queries here, let's update. Yeah, our queries. Yeah, we see that we have a query get chatroom, get chatroom user, get user, list chatroom users, list chatrooms, and list users. And the same way for mutations like create a chatroom user, and so on with delete and update. Okay, now, as I said, whenever we press here on a user, let's create a chatroom with that user. So what do we need to do? Let's open our components, contact list item, and yeah, this is the user that we display here, the component contact list item. So we already have a one-click on click, and if we do a console warn hello, that, yeah, if we do here, yeah, we see the console warn. Yeah, on click is working. So what do we need to do? First of all, let's import, we don't need the moment. Yeah, as usual, API and GraphQL operation from AWS Amplify. And we also should import a couple of mutations from, come on, from source, GraphQL and mutations. We're gonna create chatroom, and also create a chatroom user to add a user to a chatroom user. Yeah, I'm gonna put them from new line to be more clear. Create chatroom. Do we have them there? Create chat room users. Yeah, they should. Yeah. Everything is good. So whenever we click, let's do a try catch. Logging is enough. So as we said, first step, create a new chat room. Second step, add this user, add user to the chat room. And the first step, add authenticated user to the chat room. Okay, this is are the three steps that we need to take in order to set up everything for a chat room to be able, yeah. First one is pretty straightforward. Const new chat room data equal to await API. Come on, why? GraphQL, not operation. Why? We need to make this function async. And here a GraphQL operation, and which operation is create chat room. And as I said, for creating a chat room, let's check where it is. We don't need any input because the chat room currently has only ID, so the ID will be auto-generated. And we can console log new chat room data. Save. Let's open up our server. Let's clean everything and let's press on 1. Data null, errors. Message variable input has null therefore. I think we still have to pass an input there, an empty input. Input like this. Let's have a look. Yeah, object data, create chat room, and this create chat room has an ID, created that and updated that. And we can access it through .data.createChatRoom.id. Okay. Let's if new chatroom data is null, then we had an error. So in that case we can return, and we can console log here. Oh, come on. Failed to create a chat room. In our case, if it didn't go into this if, it will come here, then const new chat room equal to new chat room data I already forgot, data dot create chat room. This is the name, yeah, of the operation, and then that's it. We can actually console log it here to make sure that we didn't mess anything. Print, yeah, the object has an ID, and based on this ID we can add users to that chat room. Okay, add user to the chat room. Let's delete this one. So const new user chat room. Is it a good name? Yeah, probably. It's gonna be await API GraphQL operation, and which operation? Create chat room user. And here for the variables we need two variables. Chat room user, we need the ID will be auto generated, we don't need to send anything. The user ID we should provide, like which user, and the chat room ID, like in which chat room we should add it. So these are the two variables that we need to provide. And the second one is chat room ID. So for the chat room ID, we take it from our newly created chat room .id, and for the user ID, we are taking it from our props, from user.id. Cannot find name create chat room user, right? No. How is it called? Create chat room user. Okay, this is the first user, and actually we don't need the to receive any information. We just create it, and the same way we did for our user. And how do we get information about our user? We get it from the auth service. Here, auth, we import it. Const user info equal await auth current authenticated user. Okay. And the user ID will be user info dot attributes, if you remember, dot sub. This will be his ID. And yeah, we did the 3 steps. We created a chat room, we added one user to that chat room, and we added ourselves to that chat room. So let's try to save, run this, and see what we get. So for example, let's create a new one with Alex. Data null variable input has input. Okay, we need to add this data into an input object. Just write input object and paste in the data. The same way here, input save. Can you hear the dogs barking? I think that probably this is the last time you're gonna hear anything around myself except my voice, because I ordered a new microphone, and that one should be very good and should silence all the noises that I have around myself. So I pressed a couple of times. I hope it created. It didn't do anything, but let's check in our AppSync. Let's do I'm gonna write the query myself. You can play around and press here buttons, but I feel that it's much easier to write it. So we need a list chat rooms, right? Or no, let's take the user, get list users, and for list users in the items we're gonna request the ID and name. I'm just gonna grab my ID. This is my ID, and I'm gonna change it from list user to get user, and the ID is gonna be the ID that I just grabbed. And yeah, let's remove items, and here you should say like, yeah, ID and name. So do you remember how we created this chatroom user connection on our user model? Now that's how we are able in our query to get information about the rooms that we are inside. That's we call chatroom user here. This will return us a list of items, and each item will be the presence of ourselves in a chat room. So it will have a chat room from which we can get the ID. And what else does a chat room has? It has chat room users, because we want to know like who our users are in that chat room besides us. And again, items, ID and name. Name, username, or just name? No, chat room users. Oh, no. And user, and here name, and also probably the ID. So what does that mean? for the user that we are querying, basically myself, give me all the chat rooms that I'm a part of. And because this is an array, we need to query the items field here. And for each item, give me the chat room that that item represents. And in each chat room, there is like other users. So give return back all the users that are in that chat room. Let's run it. So Vadim is in two chat rooms. Let's open the first one. The chat room has the ID this, and it has two users. The first one is, how can we make it a bit bigger? Can you see it right now? So the first user is Vadim, the second one is Alex. And let's look at the second chat room that we are, again, Vadim and Alex. So if I press on Lucas and run again this query, yeah, we see the chat room with Lucas and Vadim and with Alex, and so on. So it means that everything seems to work, right? So what do we hello Daria. So the last thing that I want to do is to, once we press on a user, to open the actual chat with that user. So let's navigate to we have like a chat page or something like that. How do we navigate? ID, chat room ID, and name. Okay, we should navigate somehow like this. And here, navigate chat room. We have, yeah, new chat room, and it has an ID. That's good. And we need to put the username of that chat room. Basically, what we need to do here in these chat room users, to check which one is not me, like first one or second one. But I guess it will always be the first one. Yeah, because we added. Yeah, we can hack and think that it will always be the first one and just return the name of the first chat room user. Okay, let's hard code it here something, because I don't want to get into the details right now. Hard coded name. Save. Let's create a chat room with Daniel, and it opens a hard coded name chat with Daniel. Actually, the ID is of that chat room, only the name here on the top is different. So that's, I think, not a big problem. Yeah, at the moment it displays like dummy messages, but we're gonna fix it really soon. So what does that mean? That means that we didn't finish actually the chat rooms, because the last thing that we need to do is to display all our chat rooms in our chats page, like in our home screen, to display like all the chat rooms that we are part of, right? Exactly. So how are we gonna do that? Let's close these two. Let's do a commit, git commit create chat room. Yeah, guys, an extra task for you to challenge yourself is, before creating a chat room with a user, first of all, check if you already have a chat room with that user, and if you already have, like, you don't need to create a new one. So that's like an extra challenge. If I manage to do that, that's really awesome. So okay, what now? Now we need to go to our page screens, chats screen. Here is the flat list with all our chat rooms. So where do we get our chat rooms? We get them from actually similar query as I developed here. So we get the user with our ID and we query all the chat rooms that he is part of. Okay, let's do that. Okay, let's declare the use effect empty dependency list const fetch chat rooms, no use effect please, equal to a sync function, and here we call them fetch rooms. Okay, let's import everything that we will need. Import API, GraphQL operation, GraphQL operation, and also we will need the auth service to take our ID from AWS Amplify. And we will also need to import a query. The query is get user source GraphQL queries. So the first thing is to get the user ID that is currently authenticated. We know how to do that already with user info equal to await auth dot current get, how is it, current authenticated user. If user info, but user info will never be null because we cannot get to this page if user is not authenticated. So I guess we don't need to check if it's null. So we will suppose that it's gonna be already authenticated, so this value will never be null. Okay, now const user data is equal to await API GraphQL operation, which operation? Get user, and for the variables, for the input, or not the input, just variables, ID will be user info dot attributes dot sub, right? Yeah, right now we can console log user data, save, and let's open up here. So object data get user, the user first of all has like ID, name, body, status, and so on, but it also has chat room user, which is an array of chat rooms I'm part of. However, if you remember that during our initializing the API. When we call like Amplify add API, it asks us how much depth the query should have, and we set up to 2. So that's what that depth means. So the first level is get user, the second level is chatroom users, and yeah, the third level is the items. So it will not query the user from a chatroom or the chatroom. It stops at depth 2. However, we need a bit more depth. For example, this is the first level, this is the second level, this is the third level, fourth level, and yeah, a lot of levels. We are querying a lot of levels. So to accomplish that, what we are gonna do is we're gonna modify the GraphQL query from here, like the get user, because right now it only queries for the chat rooms items, but we need to query chat room items, user, chat room users, and so on, like to get all the information that we need. In other tutorials, I actually edited it right away here. You can do that, but remember that it will be overridden every time we run GraphQL push, because it will generate new code and it will override this code. So I would suggest not to touch this one. However, copy the get user query, and let's create a new queries file into chat screen. Let's create it queries.ts, and let's paste it here. And if we put it into another folder, it's not going to be overridden. And right now we will be able to change it safely and include here information that we need. So let's think. We need ID, name, chatroom items, and for the chatroom items we will need the chatroom. Oh god, I'm so confused. Like this? Yes, it's this one. So chatroom user items, and then this one, chatroom user items, and here we append, we query the chatroom of that chatroom user. We take the ID and we query also the chatroom users, like which other users are there. And for them we just query ID and name, but we can copy other data that they have, like ID, name, image array, and status. Let's copy, paste it here. Yeah, you should delete A. I should delete A. Where from? I don't see where I did a mistake, but Alex is saying that I should delete something. We'll see if I receive any errors. So let's now import the get user from here. In our chat screen, get user, instead of importing it from source GraphQL queries, we'll import it from dot queries. Let's save. Let's open our here. Okay, now this is what it returned: get user, chat room, item. But again, oh no, here. So yeah, it's a lot of data. However, yeah, we see here like the users that are part of that group. Like this is Lucas, this is Vadim, this is Daniil, this is Vadim, this is Vadim with Alex at chat, Daniil with Vadim, and so on, Vadim with Alex. Yeah, it's just gonna be a bit interesting to parse all this data. Yeah, it's a lot of data. It might look confusing. It is confusing for me as well, but let's take it step by step and hopefully we'll manage to do it. So how does our mock data look? Let's see if chat rooms. Yeah, it looks so similar to what we have. Yeah, I'm just joking. So it has like the ID of a chat room and its users. Also the last message. Okay. We'll see if we want to change the structure or to adjust the UI to work with this new data. So let's define the state for our chat rooms. Set chat rooms not use effect but use state, and it's going to be initially an empty array. Okay, so set chat rooms with user data dot get user dot chat rooms, I think, right? Because data get user chat room user yeah, get user chat room user get user chat room user, and this is the array list we need to work with. Chat room user dot items, yeah, that's the one. Dot items, because it's an array. Dot items, and here is the array that we are gonna work with. Chat room, it has an ID, it has chat room users, and so on. Let's import use state. And let's save, and now undefined is not an object, evaluating chat room users at 1. Yeah, because it's not that easy to get the users of that chat room. So chat list item, yeah, probably we will have to do some mapping because that data is crazy. The chat room has not user but chat room users, items. We might have like chat room users dot items. Hi Andre, welcome. How is it to work with GraphQL on frontend? Did it become easier? Remember that nightmares I was having with Apollo? Yeah, usually with GraphQL and Apollo, it's great when it works, it's a nightmare when it doesn't. So from time to time it's still the same because I was trying to do some more advanced things with Apollo, and I had like similar frustration. I implemented like some feature like 2 weeks or something like that, but I think it's just like it's a complicated like technology, and if you understand it, and there is a lot of things happening in Apollo behind the scenes, so that's why if we don't study the magic, like we can get into real bad situations. So what are we doing? Let's first of all console log these items. It's gonna be much easier. Let's go here, come on. chat room, and chat room has, what does chat room has? ID and users, which is items, and that is the array. Chat room dot chat room dot chat room users dot items dot items undefined is not an object. Damn, it's so hard to navigate with all this data. Reload, come on, reload. Why? Why are you running? Why are you running? Why aren't you running? I'm enjoying my time with Firebase, but I can see the benefits of AWS Amplify in a complex project. By the way, what mic are you getting? Yeah, I believe that Firebase it's more beginner friendly, and some of the things are easier to get started with. But AWS, I feel that it's a more mature product and has better potential for production ready applications. I just don't know why it doesn't work now. What mic I'm getting? I'm getting the pod mic from Rode. It's a XLR mic, so the quality will be I hope. Come on, what's happening? Hello? Are you working or no? Yep. So, errors. Undefined chat room chat room chat room is not item but item dot chat room. Save. Alright, so now I think we are receiving them or no. And define is not an object evaluate chat room last message dot content. Okay, I get it. Last message, we don't have yet last message implemented. So in our chat list item, last message, where is it? Let's do like this. If it exists, we display the content, otherwise we display nothing. Save. Chatroom last message created at chatroom. Where? Chatroom? Oh, here. Okay, here we're gonna do chatroom last message, and if it's true, it will display it. Yeah, I'll definitely do ASMR. So, why don't we see anything? Console log user and console log user. Let's see if we at least receive a users there. Refresh. User, yeah, it has something. User. Oh, probably dot user. Yeah, I get it. So items dot user. Okay, something better. We see, yeah, the list of users that I'm chatting with. So I guess that we are chatting with Vadim 2 times, with Alex, and I think it should be with Lucas as well. Oh no, because we are taking it from position 0, but we should, yeah. Actually, we should look for these 2 items and check which one is not us. But I think we are good with just assuming that the first user in the group is the user that we are talking with. Later on we can do some logic here and do a filter and basically take the user, only if ID is the ID of our user. No, only if ID is not the ID of our user, because we want to receive the user that we are chatting with, not ourselves. So that's I think good, and we can press on, yeah, on anything, and we see the name here on top, Lucas. If we press on Daniel, we see Daniel, and so on. But sometimes you're at the position, yeah, I see that sometimes I'm at the position 1. So do you say that we need to implement that, right? Yep. So okay, let's do something like use effect. We just need to take the user ID. So use effect here, const get other user, get other user. It's gonna be an async function. Let's call get other user. Get other user, and here we will call const user info equal let's import it because it's not gonna import automatically. Import of from AWS Amplify get how is it of dot current authenticated user, and we need to state where we will save actual user const user, or let's say like our user, like the user that we are chatting with, set our user use state. Initially it will be null, and here yeah, something like that. So at this point I can do it very easily, like if dot id is equal to user info dot attributes dot not id but sub. In that case, set our user to the one from position 1. Else position 0. And we delete here user whenever other user. Let's find where we are still using it. Anywhere else. Save. Can't find variable use state, of course. Save. Null is not an object evaluating our user.image URI. Yep. If our user is null, we are still loading, and let's return I don't know, null. Yeah, right now it takes dynamically the other user, and here is like Lucas, Daniel, Alex, and so on. So right now it takes it dynamically and everything is good. So with that said, I think that we are done with chat rooms. That was pretty complicated, I would say. Yeah guys, if you get stuck, try it again and again, and go back into the video and look how I am doing, and make sure that you're typing all the information correctly, because as you saw, like our data structure that is coming from Amplify is very huge. That's just because of the many-to-many relationship between user chat rooms, and because we wanted to make this API ready to support groups in future. So let's commit display users chat rooms. And yeah, with that said, we are done with chat rooms. Guys, I'm gonna be back in 1 minute. I need it really badly to go to the toilet. Hey, I am back. How are you doing, guys? Not a lot of people left, only the beasts are left. Yeah, this stream is taking a bit more than expected, but yeah, this application is quite complicated and I don't try to take shortcuts. I implement the data structure that is probably very close to production ready infrastructure, and yeah, that's why like it takes some time until we set up everything, we manage all the data and so on. A bit tired. How are you? I'm pretty good. I think we can pull off one more item from our task list, which is messages, because yeah, I feel that that's the main part of the WhatsApp application, is to be able to write messages in the chat rooms, not displaying the dummy data that we have right now. So, are you ready, guys? Should we do it? It's quite complex. Yeah, this build is a bit more advanced than the other ones. So yeah, let's close everything, and right now we will start implementing the messages. The messages will be in a chat room and will come from a user. That's the information we need to know about them. So let's have a look here. Amplify, Backend, API, and schema. So in our schema, let's define a new type, and this will be type message. The message will be a model. Yeah, working with models be like. And what information a message will have. Always we start with an ID, which is a required field. It will have the content, like which message we actually send. The content will also be required. It will have a user ID to know from which user it comes. It will be ID. It will have a chat room ID to specify like in which chat room this message was sent, and it's gonna be an ID. So the same way as we linked the chat room user with a user using a connection, that's how we're gonna link it here as well. Let's copy it. I think it's the same as here. The user will return a user, the connection will be user ID from here. A message will also contain a chat room, and the connection will be chat room ID from here. Yep. What else? Okay, our chat room should return a list of messages. So messages will be an array of message, and we're gonna connect, but before connecting we need to create a new key on the message model, secondary key on the chat room ID, a secondary key, yeah, a key. The name of a key will be by chat room. The fields of the fields will be the chat room ID. That's the field that this key will create the index on. And we can also send a second key here, and this, as I explained previously, this will be the sort key. So based on what field do we want to sort, whenever we will query the messages in one chat room, we would like to sort the messages based on the date. So that's why we will add here created at, to be able to sort messages based on date. So if we added here created at, we also need to add them in our list of fields. Even though created at will be created automatically, we need to specify it here. And created that will be a string. And we'll add one more thing to our key. Here is not equal. It's like this. So based on this secondary index, we want to create a query. We want to actually query on using this secondary index without having to go through the chat room. To do that, we're gonna say that it will create a query field called, let's put everything from new lines, can we? So the query field will be called messages by chat room. So we're gonna receive messages by sending a chat room ID. That's how we'll receive all the messages in one chat room, and we'll be able to sort on created at because that's the sort key. Yeah, and here for the messages, let's add the connection. Key name is the name of a key that we just created by chat room, and the local fields will be the ID here. Let's save and let's try to push. Amplify, push me, and then just touch me. Yeah, after 3 hours of streaming, like my mind is going crazy. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I'm week by week my streams are taking longer and longer. That's just because I want to get into more details. I want to explain more things that I'm doing, not just doing and expecting you to follow, but I'm actually trying to explain what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, and that's why it takes a bit more time. But I think like I can pull off a 12-hour stream, and that's in my mind. So stay tuned, and hopefully soon we're gonna do a crazy 12-hour streams where I'm thinking to start an application from zero and to finish it into the same day, and also to publish it. And it's not gonna be a clone, it's gonna be like an application that I'm gonna think of, I'm gonna design it and publish it, and yeah, show you the process of the whole process from like designing, implementing, and deploying this application until the end. What are you using for the backend? We are using AWS Amplify for the backend. We created a GraphQL API on it, and right now we are implementing all the features. Currently working on the messages. Can't promise I'm gonna watch the 12-hour stream from one go. Yeah, in the beginning you didn't even watch like 1 hour stream, but now you're watching 3 hours, so slowly, you will see that it's gonna be so interesting that you're gonna watch till the end. Oh, Andrew, you're still here. When are you coming to Moldova, Andrew? That's very important information for all the people that are gonna watch this stream. Tell us. Until we are waiting for our API to update. Come on, come on, come on. Thank you, Alex Marafu. Thank you for the support. Okay, so it created the messages. Right now, what's left? Just to go there and create a message when we send one. Let's do it. So, in our screens, chat room screen, this is the flat list with messages, and the input box. The input box, where does it come from? Input box, components, input box, here, index. Yeah, it has everything here. So first of all, let's import everything that we need from import API. We will also need auth to send the user ID of our user, and GraphQL operation. That's from AWS Amplify. And we also need to import the mutation that will create a message. So we import create message from src GraphQL query, not queries but mutations. Okay, we imported the create message of like this. So let's first of all, in a use effect, get the user ID of get our user ID. So in the beginning we will query the user ID and we will have it stored somewhere. Add import statement, const fetch user async fetch user, and here let's say const user info await of current authenticated user, and let's store use my user ID set my user ID, use state, and it's gonna be null initially. So set my user ID to user info dot attributes dot sub. Okay, we have our user ID, and on send press here we need to call the create message GraphQL operation. So await API.GraphQL operation, and the operation will be create message, and variables will contain the input for it, and yeah, await, we need to declare it as a async function. So the input for a message, ID auto-generated, created at auto-generated, content is message, right? Yeah, message. We set the content, the message that we are storing in state. User ID, where did I jump? User ID will be my user ID, and what else? Chatroom ID. In the last field, it needs to know the chatroom ID. And currently we don't have a chatroom ID in this input box, and we will need to take it from properties. Props. Chat room ID equal to props. Let's send it here. No, I will rename it to chatroom ID with capital D. And yeah, right now here you can set it like this, like chatroom ID is chatroom ID, but in ES6 you can simplify it just by saying like chatroom ID, and it will set it as key and value. And let's make sure that whenever we use the input box, we are actually sending the chatroom ID there, and we are using the input box in our chatroom screen here. Yeah, the chatroom ID, we will take it from the params, and let's have a look at how it looks. When we get there, we see the params contains an ID, and this is the chatroom ID. So input box, chatroom ID equal to route params.id, and save, and let's try to send a message. Let's open our debugger to see hello world. Hello world, let's send. We don't see anything here. Let's see. Let's write here a list of messages and see if it created list. I need to update to the page. list messages ID, no, items and items ID and content. Let's run. Yeah, hello world, it exists. And if we write hey there and we run again the query, yeah, hello world, hey there. And we also can take the user who created it, ID and name. We also can create the chat room, and from chat room we can create the chat room users, and from chat room users we can get which user should be notified of a new message. And here like the user ID and name, and here we should expect like Vadim and Lucas. Here there, yeah, to Lucas, because I'm writing to Lucas, and the second one is again to Lucas. Okay, that means that they are created successfully. Now we need to display them. So let's check the chat. Are you going to NL to study or doing remote? I didn't decide it yet for my graduation assignment, because that's the last thing that I need to do, so still thinking. Is it better to use AWS Amplify or create your own GraphQL server? Oh, it depends actually on like the use case, but if it's a not very big application, I would definitely go with Amplify. But even for bigger application, like you can use just a couple of services from Amplify. For example, you would use, I don't know, like analytics from Amplify and storage, and it will ease your work to store files on S3, but you can create the GraphQL server yourself. I don't know why would you do that nowadays, but because it's a lot of work, and using tools like GraphQL, like Amplify and Firebase can ease your work. But there are, yeah, edge cases where you need like that extra mile, extra performance, or extra flexibility of a server that you will develop yourself. So yeah. What else? If you remember, in our GraphQL we said that this key on chat room and created at should be a separate query, messages by chat room. Let's check if we have it here. No, it's gonna be the same response, messages by chat room. Yeah, you see it. We have a messages by chat room, and we can provide a chat room ID. Let me just chat room ID. Yeah, I will grab a chat room ID from here. Chat room ID, this one. And we can query only the messages from this chat room. Messages by chat room ID will be this one. So right now, our data contains only the messages in this chat room, and that's what query we will use to display the messages here. So let's go for it. My voice is cracking. Okay, let's check our source queries, or we can commit git commit -m create a message, or send a message, something like that. Okay, it's created. Source GraphQL queries. Here let's find messages by chat room. That's the query we're gonna need to use in our chat room screen. So right now our flat list is getting data from from our dummy data. We need to fetch the data from the API. Use effect. Hi, I'm trying to learn React and Electron. Do you know what's the best way to load React as a file instead of loading localhost, since I don't want to risk it being used by another software? I don't think I understood it properly. Maybe my brain is just not working anymore. What do you mean you don't want to risk it being used by another software? So use effect const fetch messages. It's gonna be an async function. And let's call fetch messages. Now let's import API. What else? API, and that's it. And GraphQL operation from AWS Amplify. And also our query that we checked. Import from source GraphQL queries. We import messages by chat room. So const messages data equal to await API GraphQL operation. Which operation? The get messages by chat room. And we need to send some variables as well to say like which chat room. So here chat room ID, is route params ID. This is our chat room ID. And also the sort direction, and as we said, like we declare a sort key on the date. So the sort direction, let's say ascending or descending. I don't know, descending, because we need the last messages to query first, and then if we scroll up we want to query later. Sort direction descending. Yeah, let's try now to console log messages data save and open our server. Let's open a chat here with Lucas. Okay, data messages by chat room, and it has an items with chat room, content, and so on. That's good. I think that's gonna be a bit easier. So let's create the state const messages set messages use state empty array at the beginning, and when we receive them we were gonna say set messages with messages data dot the name of the operation, then dot items, right? I guess. So let's import the use state. Chat room data, we don't need it anymore. So the flat list will be messages. Save. Oh, it actually works. Whoa. Some bugs, but it works. Probably it will not work, it will not add it right away. Save, yeah, and it will add it, yeah, only afterwards. We can fix that later. However, yeah, with a new user it doesn't display anything. We create a message. If we check it, yeah, it's there. I see that it reversed, like it doesn't know, like it thinks that it's Daniel's message, not mine. So let's check chat message. Chat message. I'll open this file. Is my message. Okay, here instead of U1, we need to check it against the ID from from auth, and let's probably get it once here and send to each message my ID. So const my ID set my ID use state null, and let's declare another use effect. Use effect. Hello Rahul, welcome. And here let's say const, first of all let's declare empty dependencies, get my ID async so const user info equal auth. We don't have it imported, we can import it now. Const it's await auth dot current authenticated user and set my ID user info dot attributes dot sub. Let's call this one here get my ID. To the chat message, let's send my ID equal to my ID. Chat message, we can open it right now. My ID string and we check it, we destructure it and we check if user ID is the same as my ID. Save, and right now we see that it recognizes it as a message that I am sending. The same way here, and actually we can check, we can create a message from another user, let's say from Lucas in console here. First of all, let's delete everything and list users, items, ID and name, just to grab the ID of a user, Lucas. And now notation, create message, and the input will be user ID, this one. I need also the chat room ID. How do I get it? I will just console log it from here. So chat room, console log, save. Let's take it from here. This is the ID of our chat room with Lucas. So chat room ID and content. Hey from Lucas, and the just ID will be enough. Great. And let's open again this page. Yeah, we see hey from Lucas, we see our messages we can send. If we go back and rejoin, we see our new message, and we see that the message has been added like 16 minutes ago, a few seconds ago, and so on. So displaying messages works as expected. Goodbye, Andrew. Take care. So guys, I think it's been 3.5 hours. Let's commit everything that we have right now. Git status. Display fetch and display messages. And now I can also git push. So all the code that we developed today is gonna be available on GitHub, and yeah, it's gonna be available even right now. So I think that's it for today. We did mostly everything that we have planned. Can you please fix the design bug in this page? You mean that one with a keyboard? I think that I will fix it next week because I'm pretty tired right now. So we managed to add for the API the user model, register a user on authentication, displaying all user in our contact list, chat rooms, messages, and the last thing that is left from the planned items for today was real-time functionality. So whenever, for example, Lucas writes a message, it will update this list automatically. So we're gonna do that with subscriptions, but I'm pretty tired today, and I'm pretty sure you're also tired because it's 3.5 hours. So yeah, stay tuned, and during the next week's stream, I'm gonna implement the real-time functionalities. The application will receive messages and update itself in real time, and you'll be able to actually chat. I'm gonna plan also creating groups because everything is almost ready. Just a couple of buttons on the front end to add more users to the group. Fixing bugs. What else? We'll see how much everything will take, and I will condense all the information in a like also a 3 hours probably stream. And I hope to finish next week video with publishing this application and giving access to everyone who will be watching, so we will be able to start chatting with each other. Actually, I think I can do that right now, but for a short amount of time. For example, here I can set tunnel, and if I will open the application on my screen, let's see if it works. Expo. You can also like open Expo, and if you scan this barcode, it will open the application. So I opened Expo, I scanned it, and it should open the application. Yep, new updates available, downloading. Let's see, I'm really curious if I'll be able to register a new user and to start chatting with each other. How do you guys feel? How was it? Is anyone here from the beginning till the end? Are you still alive? Probably I left some console logs there that don't need to be there. For example, this one. And at the end, yeah, I forgot about like types, and we have some red arrows. It's not a big issue, but in a production ready environment you would want to make sure that all the types, for example here my ID can be null, but chat message expects a string here. So yeah, go back to the QR code. Here it is. I can also copy and paste it here, but it's gonna be available only for a short amount of time. So my Expo is updating, is downloading updates. I don't know which updates, but let's see. Come on. So yeah, let's yeah guys, do you have any questions? All right, so my application loaded on my mobile. You can see it here. It asked me to log in, and I'm gonna create a new account with another email. So well, let's create email user account for Elon Musk. Okay, 1 second, just completing the registration form. So why I can't sign up? Come on, come on, come on. Okay, sign up. Sign up. Come on, why? It's very unresponsive. I think that because of latency problems. Because I'm on this page and I press sign up and it doesn't do anything. I think it's from latency problem. Adam is asking, are you going to make a video for React Native Twitter profile? What do you mean? I think I finished everything that I planned with Twitter. A lot of people, yeah, are asking like more content on, like, for example, Instagram clone and so on. So yeah, I might, if you are interested in like more content on the builds that I already did, I might do them in future, but I would like to move on with new projects because I have like a lot of ideas. And yeah, so yeah, it doesn't want to work on my phone right now. Oh no, actually I received an email with a code, but it's not the point. So I think we should call it a day for today because it's 3.5 hours. It's more than the previous stream, but we managed to do a lot in this stream. So in just 3 hours, when you think about it, we set up the whole backend. We added the authentication with authentication flow. with login, sign up, forget password, and so on. We created a whole backend and connected our application to this backend. So we added the user model, the chat rooms, messages, and as you saw, the chat rooms are pretty tricky because a chat room is a many-to-many relationship between users, and a lot of users can communicate with each other. So yeah, that was the tricky part. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, because it will definitely help me. And also join our Discord channel because our community is very helpful, and share like what you have managed to build. And if you have any problems, also ask there, because I'll be happy to help you guys. So yeah, see you on the next week, and as usual, take care, guys.